Boatworks Today is sponsored by Total Boat and Alexial Yacht Coatings, as well as supported by the generosity from the beautiful folks over on Patreon. Thank you so much.
So welcome back to the shop, everybody. I hope you're all having a wonderful week. Now, in this video, I'm not quite sure exactly how far I'm going to get with things. At the very least, kind of the main goal is I need to reinforce or basically finish off that arched, I don't even know what you call it, that part that's going across the transom that's going to be sealing off that aft compartment so that I can put my lid down. If you didn't catch last week's video, that little spiel is going to make a lot more sense. So with that said, I'm just going to jump right into it and get started. All right, now I'm going to be mixing up some thickened material to fill in that trough. Now, to do so, I have some options. If I wanted to, I could go the polyester route. And if I wanted to, if I just kind of take it from square one, if I wanted to just take out some regular polyester resin or vinyl ester and mix in some Cabasil and some milled glass fibers, I could certainly use that, get it to a good consistency, and then pour it in there and, Bob's your uncle, and away we go. I could also go the pre-mixed route. I could use some structural repair putty, which would work perfect for this. I also have the option of thickening up some epoxy. Now, in my situation here, time is a little bit of the essence here, and the two options that I would actually seriously consider would be thickening up some epoxy or using some structural repair putty. Now, either material would work fantastic. However, the structural repair putty, it's still a laminating material. So looking at this later today, in order to be able to sand that without gumming up a bunch of paper, I'd have to go over and post cure that with going over top of it with another type of polyester material that contains wax. Now, in this particular situation, having that open laminating surface isn't going to be beneficial for me. So I'm going to go the route of thickening up some epoxy. Now, to do that, I'm just going to be mixing in some 2-to-1 Total Boat epoxy, and I'm going to be thickening that with silica. I'm not going to get it real thick because I want to be able to pour it out of the cup and kind of somewhat have it self-level inside that trough. But it's still going to be fairly thick. I don't want it running away on me. So let me get some of that material mixed up. Now, throughout this process, the depth of that trough is around 3/4 of an inch deep. Now, in order to do that, if I were to do that all in one pour, that's going to be quite a bit of material sitting in that little trough. So instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at this as two separate pours. So pour number one, I'm going to fill that trough roughly halfway full. And then I'm going to let that sit for probably, half hour, 45 minutes, give or take, until it starts to gel. Basically, what I'm looking for is I want to wait until the epoxy gets past the peak of its exotherm reaction, right? And what that means is, while the epoxy is kind of chooching and doing its thing, it creates heat, exothermic reaction. So I'm going to wait until that peak, kind of is on the downward slide before I pour in, round number 2, which will then go all the way up to the very, very top. And I'm probably going to have to strike it off smooth, but we'll cross that base on round 2. So let's get to it. All right, it has been roughly an hour, and I wanted to show what this surface looks like when epoxy is still within that laminating type stage. Now, if you look here, hopefully it's not going to get blown out. Maybe if I come over this direction. I mean, it's still soft. I can still make an indentation in it. So now at this point, the epoxy is set up enough. It's past its peak of generating heat, or the exotherm reaction here. So now at this point, I would be perfectly fine to go right over top of this with another batch of epoxy, and I don't have to worry about any bonding issues, right? Because it'll all be a chemical bond. Now, technically, I could even wait even longer than this, to the point where it somewhat feels hard. But as long as you can still make any kind of like an indentation in the surface with your fingernail, it's still an open type material. Once you can no longer make any kind of an indentation on there, well, then you're pretty much hosed, and you're going to have to screw it, sand it. You might as well just say screw it, because you're going to have to sand it. But anyways, with that said, this is kind of right where I want it to be. So I'm going to mix up another batch, roughly about half the size of what I did the first time. I think the first round was like 10 pumps of epoxy. I'm probably going to do closer to probably like 4 or 5. And I'm going to be thickening this quite a bit more than what I did on this initial pour, because this top layer, when I actually spread it out, I want it to stay exactly where I put it. I don't want it to kind of flow out and kind of drip all over the floor while I'm not here. So let me go ahead and get that mixed up, and I'll show you the viscosity that I am going to be happy with. All right, now we wait. I gotta go watch my daughter's softball game, so I'll see you in the morning. So what I'm doing here is I've got a bunch of surface, basically low spots or minor imperfections, all along here when I pop it off the mold. And before I start laying my glass, I need to fill these in. Otherwise, I'm going to be left with a bunch of air voids beneath the glass. And well, that's just far less than desirable. So I left this a little bit on the loose end of, as far as how thickened I made this. I want it easy to trowel, easy to spread over, and I want it to remain a little bit wet because any excess epoxy that's in here, I want it to be able to help me kind of saturate the 1708 from the bottom side as well. So now, one of the tricks when you're wetting out 1708, because it is a thicker material, is just to give it an initial coating and just don't worry about it being saturated at first. Just give it a coating, then give it a couple of minutes. Let the epoxy just kind of slowly soak into the fabric here. Takes a little bit, but it will eventually work. Now I'm going to focus on this peak because I want this to become pliable first so that these two faces lay down a little bit easier. It's still a little on the stringy side. And also too, for this first layer, I'm not worried at all about being maybe a little bit resin rich with this epoxy. I'll be a little bit more careful about it on the second layer of 1708, but at least on this first layer, I kind of want to dogpile it on because any excess that's on here on this first layer can be taken up and absorbed by the second layer if needed. All right, so now at this point, the 1708, it is not saturated, but it is pretty heavily coated with the epoxy. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna walk away for just like 5 minutes. Give the epoxy a little bit extra time to kind of saturate and soak into the 1708. Then I'll come back and I'll start focusing on trying to work out if there's any little air bubbles or anything like that. But I will, like I said, I'm gonna give this 5 minutes and I'll be back shortly. Now, when I'm doing this, I'm taking the shortest route. It's a lot easier to push the air from here to here than it would be to try and push it from here out towards the edges. And also, when I'm doing this, I'm kind of coming down at a little bit of an angle because the 1708, the way that it was cut, it will stretch this way, but it's not really going to stretch this way. So by coming down on a little bit of an angle, I'm putting some tension right across the top of here, and that's going to help to pull that glass down tighter against the backing surface and help to minimize the amount of potential air bubbles behind here. I'm not going to get too carried away at this step because after I get the second layer of 1708 on, then I'm going to be going over top of this with a fin roller. And that should do a pretty good job. All right, well, hopefully this is going to pick up. I got a massive bubble right in through here. As far as I'm concerned, I think this looks pretty good. There are some little white patches here and there, but that is, before I even put the glass down, remember I mixed up some thickened epoxy and I kind of laid it down to fill in any low spots. Most of these little white dots, that's what that is it's that thickened epoxy that you're able to see through the 1708. But overall, I'd say I got 99% of all the air worked out. It looks good. And the epoxy is starting to gel, so I'm done. Ready or not, I'm done. All right, so now we're switching gears. We're back up on the boat, and I need to cut the pockets in here along the port and starboard side that's going to accept that part that we just finished glassing here. Now, this is I don't know. Honestly, I have no idea how this is going to go. I'm cutting blind. I mean, I can get in here and feel kind of where the coring for this deck roughly is, but I mean, I can't say that I can cut with any great accuracy exactly where I need to be. So I'm going to be making my initial cuts a little bit on the conservative side. So I'm going to make sure that I'm well within of, where I need to be able to cut and access the coring without actually cutting through the other side of the coring and cutting the whole trunk. It's hard to explain. Maybe after I get some of this opened up, it'll be a little bit easier to kind of see what I'm trying to explain here. But essentially, the short story is that I'm going to be cutting in some pockets on the port and starboard side, putting in a flat piece of 1/2-inch Coosa that's going to be glass top and bottom. And on top of that is going to be that arched piece that we just finished glassing. And that's going to be the back support, I guess, for this overall lid. Now, I've had some thoughts, and last week there were some really, really good comments, both from the folks over on Patreon as well as some comments, from YouTube. And I think there is going to be a really good workaround without having that obscene toe kick, on this lid after it's in place. Not one aspect of that isn't exactly going to be the cheapest approach, but honestly, in the back of my mind, I was kind of considering doing it anyways. But that's a fine finishing thing down the road. Right now, I'll be happy just to get this thing, do some sea trials on it this summer. So. So let me see what kind of trimming I'm gonna have to do on this back piece that we worked on in order to make this fit. And well, as it turns out, quite a bit. Ultimately, what that means though, is that that part of the project is gonna have to wait for the next video. Unfortunately, I'm out of time for this week. And on that note, I guess I'm gonna go ahead and wrap this video up. So as always, I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you found it interesting. And if you did, hit that thumbs up button. If you're not already subscribed, hit that subscribe button and the notification bell. Thank you in advance. I greatly appreciate it. If you have any questions, comments, feel free to leave those down below. I will do my best to follow up with you. And as always, I want to thank you for your time. Thanks for watching. Have a wonderful weekend. And I will see you next week.
This has been a Boatworks Today production.